Hello, everybody. How is everybody doing? I'm going to unmute you all.
Morning.
Good morning.
Well,
Good afternoon.
Good
Good morning.
afternoon. Excellent. I'm going to do the gallery view. Beautiful. All right. Does everybody have the live virtual class notes up and ready to go?
No.
Yeah.
Mr. Austin.
What's up?
So I'm working right now. I only have like 6 minutes. Is that fine?
You're fine. Just do the do now, and then you can go back to work.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So if you have the live virtual classroom notes up, you'll see that there is a question there that says write 2 to 3 sentences on how your life has been affected by the pandemic. Focus on 2 positive changes and 1 negative change, and then write your answer in the space next to your name. So find your name and then write your answer in the space next to it. And I'm going to mute you all, and I'm going to give you 5 minutes starting now.
What's up, Mr. Austin?
Hey, Che, what's up?
It's your class, man.
Well, we're in it right now, man.
It's not the same.
I know. All right, there's the timer. Okay, so if you're still working on that, finish it up. But we're gonna go ahead and move on. I'm gonna share my screen with you all, and we're gonna have a quick 10-minute lesson on credible sources. So if you read the assignment that I posted on Google Classroom today, you'll see that there is an assignment due tonight, which is to post the citations for 3 credible sources for your research paper. So you should be beginning the research process right now. And so it's important to know exactly what sources are good and what sources are not super good and how to cite them. So I'm going to share my screen with you all, and then we will go ahead and talk about it. So choosing sources that don't suck. It's actually quite simple, but it's still important that we go over it because every now and then you might be confused, like, I don't know if this source is good, if it's credible. So let's just go over that right now. So what doesn't suck? Sources don't suck when they are written by credible authors. What does credible mean? Well, the definition of credible is someone or something that is believable or reliable. So even if we're reading it on a website, that doesn't necessarily mean that we should believe it or that the information that we're learning is reliable. I think you all know this, but every now and then it's kind of hard to tell. So if you are writing a research paper on the economy, then you want to be looking for advice from people like economists, not people who don't know anything about the economy. People who are experts in the economy are more believable or reliable when it comes to the economy. That's pretty. That should make sense. That's pretty obvious, but it's good to reiterate it. So when we're getting started with our research, there are several places that we can begin. The most common places to start are online encyclopedias, Wikipedia, and Google Scholar. So for those of you who have used these sources before, I know everybody's used Wikipedia before, maybe you haven't used an online encyclopedia before. That's a little, encyclopedias are kind of dated. When I was in school, we actually had books that were encyclopedias that we would have to search in and find information about, and then Wikipedia was invented and things got a lot easier. But in the meantime, they have put all the encyclopedias online, and so that's a pretty good way to get started learning about your topic, is to go to an online encyclopedia. The information from those are going to be very credible. Wikipedia is not a credible source in its own right, but it can get you started in the right direction by giving you some good background information. And it also has some pretty good sources in the footnotes. And then a simple Google search on Google Scholar is also another good way to yield some good source material, because the sources on Google Scholar are academic and they've been peer reviewed, which means that other people have read them and have said, yes, this information is correct. So those are some good places to get started. The Encyclopedia Britannica is probably the best known encyclopedia. It is online. And we know that this is a credible source because it was written by 100 full-time professional editors and nearly 4,000 professional contributors that have made sure that the information is accurate and correct. Wikipedia, as I said, is not credible on its own, but you'll see that if you read a Wikipedia article, you'll see like these little numbers in brackets next to information. That means that there is a source that this information is coming from. These are citations. So if you actually click on those hyperlinks, it will take you to the source where the information came from. And that's a good way to find some really credible sources. And then finally, Google Scholar, as I mentioned, if you type in Google Scholar, it will take you to this different search engine. This is more accurate than a Google search, because when you do just a Google search, you're going to get things like advertisements, and you're going to get information and websites that have actually paid money to Google to be at the top of the list. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're the best websites for your question. They're just the ones who paid the most money to be at the top. So it's a little skewed when you just do a normal Google search. But if you do a search on Google Scholar, then there's not going to be any advertisements, and all the information is going to be from academic sources. So definitely give that a shot. Okay, some other tips to know if your source is credible. Materials that are published in the last 10 years are going to be more credible than others. So try to find things that are at least from the last decade. You might be able to get away with citing sources from the early 2000s. However, most of that information is going to be outdated by now. So make sure that your source material is coming from the last 10 years. Also, research articles written by respected and well-known authors. You know they're respected and well-known just by doing like a quick, look them up, type in their names to Google and see who these people are. Are they experts or are they just random people? Websites registered by government and educational institutions are very credible. So .govs, .edus, .acs. Try to avoid websites that don't end in those domains, because those websites are either selling advertisements, and that means that the information doesn't necessarily need to be credible. It can just be sensational to try to get you to click on the website. Academic databases like JSTOR, EBSCO. If you have a Peralta login, you can use those academic databases for free. And I can show you how to use those if you don't know. And then, like I said, Google Scholar is a good way to go. How do you know if a source is not credible? It's outdated, so it's from longer than 10 years ago. Posts on social networks like Facebook are not credible. Blogs are not credible. Research articles without citations are not credible, because how do we know where that information came from? It's not reliable. And websites ending in .com, .org, .net are not credible websites. So you should try to avoid those as much as possible. Okay, once you have that information, you need to cite the sources. So how do you cite sources? What if you've never done that before? Well, there's lots of resources that are helpful. The best one is the OWL Purdue website. The link is right here in this slideshow. So I'm going to post the slideshow as soon as we're done with class, and you can go to the link. But this is a website that has all of the styling and formatting guidelines for citations. And so it actually has a citation machine embedded in the website right here. So you can actually just type in your like the URL to whatever source you're using, and it will cite it for you. Now, sometimes when you do that, all the information isn't there. And so you need to double check and make sure that the information or that the source that you're using has all this information, that it has a title, that it has an author, that it comes from a reliable source, that it has a publishing date, and also has references or citations. If it doesn't have any of these things, like if you try to create a citation and you can't find the author, or you can't find the date that it was published, or you don't see any citations, then it probably sucks. So you probably should just move on and try to find another source that has all that information. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult for you to prove that your sources are credible. To close this class out, I just want to make sure that everybody knows the homework for tonight. So tonight's homework is a benchmark assignment, which means that it will be part of your weekly district grade. It is to submit your first 3 credible sources, and there is like a Google form that you fill out. And every source that you put in there, it needs to be cited correctly using the MLA format. So if you don't know how to cite it correctly, you can go to a citation generator, or you can read the OWL Purdue website, and it will tell you how to do that step by step. So that is the homework. It is due tonight at midnight. So you have the rest of the day to finish it. And 11:59, yep, that's right. And then the last thing that I need you to do for class today is to go back to the live virtual classroom notes and to do the exit ticket.